Surprise traders, how are we doing today? Today we got a little bit of a ticker symbol update on stock ticker GME, AMC, and IWM. And I just want to give a little shout out, a little peeky weeky to everyone who's liked the last couple of videos. 144 likes in the last video, 83, 128. So if you're watching this right now, it'd mean a lot to me, right? We're on the road to 2K. Help the algorithm push this channel. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And let's just jump straight into the GME video because we have not covered GameStop and AMC in quite some time, and we have a lot to talk about. Make sure to stay until the end, please. We got a lot of DD. But just starting off here, right? Looking at this falling wedge that we were in and seeing that this breakout pulled all the way back, right? You took a little peeky weeky outside of this falling wedge during that eBay acquisition and came as high as $30. Now, it doesn't show here. I could look on the 4 hour, and I guess the 4 hour is not showing here. It does on Webull, though, that you were up at as high as $30 in the after hours. Now, it does not cover, though, just how dramatic of a slide this is, right? Already down 20% from the top here, and if you count 30, even more, and on decreasing volume too. So this is where I start to get a little excited about a potential turnaround target here for GameStop. Now, we look at this falling wedge formation. You are touching the 1 to 3rd time along this downsloping support, and hopefully that can turn into a rally here up to 2306 potentially. But keep in mind, traders, we mentioned a long time ago, I'd probably say 2 to 3 weeks ago, that these circled gaps existed, right? 21, what was the first one? 93, and that filled recently. What do you have still yet to fill? 21.25, right? So these gaps are things that the stock could come back to and then wick back into and then hopefully rally in the other direction. But just keep that in mind for Monday's open. If you open up red, right, which I don't think you will, and I'll get into that in a second. But if you do open up red, traders, there is a possibility, right, that you fill this gap at 21.25. And then you V-line in the other direction. Some different things that I'm watching here, 3 different things particularly that I'm watching here for a reversal is, first thing, get out of here, TradingView. First thing is this candlestick formation, right? You printed a pretty beautiful inverted hammer candlestick, which if you look at the past couple inverted hammers, right, this is an inverted hammer right here, and the next day you went up 3%, right? You gapped up, and you at some point were up $2. Right, so you had an inverted hammer candlestick, but looking at the previous candle, right, this is very indicative of a potential morning star, right? You have a down candle, 1, 2, 3. You have a long wick and a small bodied candle, green. And if you see this gap up, or if you see this next day look pretty positive here, engulfing at least 50% of this red candle, I would be comfortable to say that might be the end of this drawdown, right? And hopefully you can rally outside of this. Some kind of acquisition news comes out, God knows what, right? But that's the candlestick formation possibility here on GameStop that I like. Off of that, right, we've talked about the very suppressed volume here on GME, seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red days, right, since this drawdown of just depressing volume, 6 if you count that, right? And you're just starting to see a tiny little peeky weeky out of that depressive volume trend, but you haven't really seen anything significant. So that's what I'd like to see next, is I want to see Monday's market open at least see some volume or volatility. What I'm also watching, though, on GameStop is the RSI in the daily time frame, right? The RSI is the king of identifying potential tops and bottoms. I'll show you an example, right? We called the potential for bearish RSI that came to fruition back here. This was on the stock, higher high, higher high, higher high. So you had 3 separate touches of bearish divergence, right? Higher high, or lower high, lower high, equal high. Those are very indicative of a potential reversal signal, and that's what you got, right? You reverted in the other direction pretty heavily, but now what you're getting, right, is you're getting a lower low on the stock, but a slightly higher low on the RSI. If that is the case, right, that is hidden, or that is just bullish divergence, right? And if that comes to fruition, well, look at this horizontal trend line, right? Going all the way back to March, to January, to October, to July, to June, right? All of these different wicks and bottoms, this $36 to $37 or point level on the RSI has acted as a pretty nice horizontal resistance here. So if we are to come down here, let's say we fill the gap, you tap this horizontal trend, and you can see how well you've respected it in these very random touches, right? Wick off, wick off, wick off, wick off. Slightly below. That one touched oversold. Wick off, wick off. So there's a very possible opportunity here that you find the bounce. But what's going to happen if it doesn't, right? Let's cover that too. If it doesn't, there's a strong possibility that you come all the way back down to what we talked about a very long time ago as well. There's potential for a 3 rising valleys, right? 1, 2, all the way back. 3 for your third higher high and higher low. I would not be surprised to see you retest this trend line, as it's acted as pretty significant support. 1, 2, 3, and now 4th time would be pretty significant, right? I would expect a flush and then a solid bounce off of it. That would act as a very nice opportunity for a long. Of course, I'm not a financial advisor. Do not take this as financial advice. I'm just saying what I might look to do, right? That would mean $20 GameStop, where it currently is a freaking steal. All right, let's jump straight into GameStop on Webull. You're potentially looking at an impending death cross, and this would be probably one of the most frustrating, most agonizing death crosses of them all, because you've seen 1, 2, you've seen 2, and potentially a third within all the same year. That almost never happens, right? This has been fake out. And if this is another fake out, I'm going to lose my mind on GameStop, because the golden cross here was so freaking fine. It was so perfect. And you're looking at a potential death cross here, which is bearish, right? Because then that allows for bears to step into the stock at a specific moment. Let's say 50-day EMA curls all the way down to this resistance, bears load up, and then you're coming back down to 21. Sorry. So that is the possibility for the daily time frame on Webull, as the 9-day EMA is just literally shooting down. That should act as a short-term resistance here, currently sitting at 22.85. Going to the weekly time frame, though, just look at that candle, right? On lowering volume, it's got to come to an end at some point, as that's an 11% candle on GameStop. That's crazy. Weekly or monthly, big nothing burger, to be honest. More consolidation. You did not get that monthly MACD cross like we were hoping you got it, and then invalidated it. Unfortunately, that could have led to only the third green monthly cross in over 6 years, right? First one was the bottom here in 2020, the bottom here in 2024, before that squeeze, and then potentially this one, right? So there is the possibility for that. That's something that we're actively watching on this stock, as the monthly MACD on this stock has shown to be a tried and true momentum indicator for large scale moves, right? Large scale move, and then potentially large scale move. So we're watching that very closely on GME. On AMC, I'd like to cover that it is not dead, right? Not a dead cat, or whatever you want to say. But you are seeing a little bit more of a prolonged consolidation, unfortunately, right? You had this beautiful golden uptrend that you sliced through here after finding a bounce during earnings, finding a rejection during earnings, and then finding a bounce or a bottom, hopefully, somewhere along this new established trend, right? And this is a consolidative trend. Boom, boom, boom. Potentially to swing back up here to 160. Now, if you don't, right, if you continue to knife down here, which I think is possible because you close at the bottom of your candlestick, that's usually never a good sign, and on increasing volume. If you continue to slice down here, traders, there's a very high likelihood that you come down to this gap fill at 112 like we talked about many other times. Unfortunately, this trend could not hold, and it's looking more and more likely that you might come down here into oversold territory on the 4-hour, which was the bottom right here. So if this does come into oversold territory, we'll be analyzing very closely to see potential bullish divergences and cover and let you guys know, because we did just fill the gap currently sitting at 128, officially filled on the stock as of Friday, right? So we filled one of the two gaps left from this squeeze up of 110%. If we can wick off of 112 and then hopefully close anywhere between 120 to 130, guys, that is a win, a serious win in my books. So that's what we're watching for the next week of AMC. On the daily time frame, it becomes a little bit more clear that you are within a longer scale consolidation pattern, right? You had this falling wedge, you broke it on earnings, had some smash earnings, by the way, that we have not covered fully, and then came all the way back down. You filled this gap, and now you're watching for this gap fill right here. Volume overall, although you saw ramp ups, still in a overall volume downtrend. So if you want to see this thing really begin to pop off, you need to see volume step back into the stock. And across the market, the volume has been pretty low. A lot of uncertainty, right? You see the Iran war conflict, you see oil up, you see Ukraine and Russia still fighting. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets. You see inflation creeping back up. So I'm sure that as soon as a lot of those conflicts become resolved, you should see AMC and a lot of the more risk-on stocks begin to swing back higher. Now, nothing hurts these stocks more than uncertainty. Not even like terrible financials. If we look at Fear and Greed Index, I freaking love fearandgreedmeter.com. You can see the stock market's still an overall greed, which is fascinating, and then crypto and fear. So we'll be watching this as well as this develops. On the weekly time frame, not a great candle, but still on lowering volume like we talked about. You are, at the moment, rejecting the 50 line on the RSI. And if you come all the way back down here, I would look to see a bounce off of this RSI band. Now, you could ask yourself, when's the last time you saw a bounce off this RSI band? How consistent is it, right? You saw a pretty gnarly bounce both times you got your nice run-ups in AMC, right? Although this one was just straight 0 to 100 really quick, literally. This one back here, you saw a touch of oversold, got above the RSI band where my cursor is, right? Retested that, made a higher low, and sprung up about 70%. This one, where is it? Right here, beautiful example, right? I'll kind of maximize it for you. Because not only is that a higher low, you break it, retest it, spring up 400%, and the volume is there, right? Traders, that's what we're trying to see, is if you hold this, you are going to spring in such a larger way. And I can give you a good example of this, right, that AMC could mimic. But that's what I would say is if you lose the weekly RSI band, you are going to lose so much of this momentum, and you do not want that, right? Because the possibility that this is still a shoulder head, deeper right shoulder is still there, right? Those do exist. It does suck that you dropped 144, though, after consolidating on it for 2 straight weeks. But we're going to look at NEO, stay with me, AMC, because this was a prime and true example of this, right? Depressive volumes creeping down. You have a very U-shaped cup-like structure. You break the RSI band where my cursor is, retest it, that's your higher low, and then you spring the next week up 22.5%. Now, if that can happen in AMC, Great, right? That's what we want. I want you guys to win because the little guy has not won in a very long time. We're here to fight corruption, and we're here to cover the stocks that we love, right? I just like the stock at the end of the day. So on the broader scale, we're going to delete this golden trend line. On the broader scale, traders, we are still within, just barely within this falling wedge, and we covered it time and time again off of the tap, tap, tap. And looking down here towards the bottom of the wedge, right, we were screaming that you are now touching a support line that you've rallied 400%, 1,000%, and 200% or 400% off of, right? You're now touching it. And what did you do? You rallied 110%. So I do believe the best is yet to come for AMC. A lot of positive earnings, right? EBITDA posing positive. You just saw an amazing box office month in May and April, right? Looking at the total gross month to date, 521 million compared to 357, 238, and that's all off of less releases, right? Less releases in the last 1, 2, 3 months. So things are on the upswing for AMC. I do believe you'll find a higher low here, and that the stock will continue this kind of stair-step and volatile road. So that's what we have for AMC on the weekly. On the monthly time frame, it sucks. But you seem to have rejected the monthly RSI band, which could have led to a freaking crazy squeeze. Let's see. Monthly time frame, though. You need to close above 128, which is entirely doable, guys. Close above 128, and you will continue to see green month after green month. On the quarterly time frame, we're still cooking with grease. We're still green. And when you pull up the MACD on the quarterly time frame, TradingView is officially showing it. Webull does not. But you're getting your first quarterly MACD cross, guys. Pay attention, right? Subscribe, like, do whatever you got to do. This is what our thesis began on, that you would get this quarterly MACD cross and you would make your macro bottom. This was your previous quarterly MACD cross. You saw 400 and 455% move. This is your now quarterly MACD cross. Hopefully, right? Fingers crossed that this holds into the next quarter, that you will see this thing absolutely clear the lows into $4, $7, $10, right? That's our hope, is that you would retest on the weekly, just to be a little bit more clear. Retest your previous all-time low. That is going to be your largest horizontal resistance line to watch for, right? You can look at the way that AMC has respected it in the past, but this is really just a freaking double whammy, double bottom, whatever you want to call it, a deeper bottom here also, just like this was a double bottom, deeper bottom, bam, right? And this horizontal trend line was touched once, 3, 4, 5 times already. I would assume, right, if you're to squeeze here, you're going to find a couple different resistances, right? Resistance at $3 because of all this sideways price action. If you pull up the VRVP, I assume, right, just assumptions, crud. Let's get rid of the RSI for a second. No. VRVP. Give it to me, baby. Come on. Ha! We do have it. So just look at all the volume, right, traders? Look at all the volume traded in this range from 13 down to 4. That is going to act as a significant shelf of liquidity in which you will find resistance. It's the same way in GameStop with $25, right? The VRVP is very good for finding these air pockets, right? So if you're able to clear above $13, what do you have after that, right? You have some of the lowest volume in the entire stock. And this was the exact case in June, right? Above here, there was a significant air pocket in which, or volume pocket in which you saw price action slide beneath. That's why this move down was so fluid, right? You just saw liquidity destroy the stock with less of it, right? So if you get back into this air pocket or volume pocket, the thing is going to fly. It's just whether or not you can get back above $10, $13. If you do that, traders, you're going to see a crazy retail revolution again. And that's what I would love to see on this thing. So just a little lesson on VRVP, visible volume range, visible range and volume profile. So beyond that, traders, trying to think of what else to cover on AMC. There's still a lot to talk about. If you haven't already, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell, do all the things that you got to do on the daily time frame. Let's look at AMC on Webull, and let's just take a look at what this thing looks like, right? So you're retesting on Webull. You're retesting a couple different things. Retesting this previous resistance. Hopefully that flips as new support. You find a rising trend off of it. Fingers crossed, right? And beyond that, that is a nothing burger. This highlights the gap at 112. Volume's going down. 4-hour chart. Just saw a death cross in the 4-hour. MACD just crossed down. So I do stand by my thought that it will go down tomorrow, most likely. How about GME? GME just find a perfect bounce off of that support, hopefully. Okay, let's talk about IWM. Stay through IWM, guys. Trust me. Trust me. IWM. Let's pull up, not VRVP. Let's pull up RSI. So IWM had the exact same thing as GameStop, right? You look at the trend of bearish divergence, lower highs and higher highs. We called this as well, saying that this worries me, especially off of the insane amounts of low volume, right? I don't even mean it in a good way. The volume was beyond low here. And the fact that you saw this big red candle, right? 2.31%, not surprising at the least. And you close at the bottom of it, right? So you're going to need some very positive news for Monday morning for this thing to swing back up, or else you're going to be retesting most likely this horizontal support and resistance, right? This was resistance, broke through it and bounced off of it. It's likely that you come back to 271, and I do believe you have a gap down there. Let me check. 4-hour looks kind of beautiful. So you left the gap after coming down here, so you could swing back up to 281 before then, but the gap does exist currently at 265. So if we see a prolonged swing down here, traders, expect support where we talked about around 271, and that would set up a potential longer scale head and shoulders, right? Shoulder, head. You come down here, fill the gap, or you bounce here, fill the gap. That makes the most sense to me, actually. And then you fill that gap. So potentially a longer scale, more bearish scenario here for us, right? But it would make up for all of the different gap fills that you've made along this way. What kind of news would happen along this? I don't know. I'd prefer not to be bearish, but that's kind of what the chart is showing me, that there is a potentially, especially with the volume spike off of that drawdown, would not be surprised to see this kind of situation play out, right? Draw down, fill the gap, rally to fill the gap, and then swing down lower. Not great, right? Not what we wanted, but I do stand by the fact that this is an uptrend, and this would just be another swing high before your swing low here to either tap the 200-day EMA or tap this uptrend and then fly in the other direction to all-time highs, right? We stand by our bullish thesis here on this channel. I hope you guys appreciate that, because sometimes it takes the most of me when you look at finance Twitter. When you look at finance Twitter, everything is bearish. On the weekly time frame, let's just take a little peeky weeky at that, right? You see the volume exhaustion here from the bulls, even though you're up 20% on the weekly time frame from the bottom here. Yeah, 20% exactly. You're seeing this volume exhaustion hopefully come to an end and some volatility to just freaking step up into this thing, right? On the monthly time frame, you probably would be hard pressed, even though the monthly looks like absolute dog doo-doo this month. I mean, we're just being honest, right? Looks like dog doo-doo with this shooting star candlestick. Shooting star candlestick pattern is one of the most bearish topping candlesticks that you have in the entire market, right? It is a very prime suggestion that the top is in and that you're about to go on a downtrend. If you close the month like this, guys, on IWM, it's likely you come back to fill those gaps. So I'm watching this very closely. If this flips in the other direction, great, right? Because we just had one of the most bullish months year to date in the last probably 6 months or 6 years, right? The most bullish candlestick formation since 2020 of November, right? Since you started this massive rally. So I do still believe the best is yet to come, even if it's at the cost of this breather. It just may be the dip before the rip, right? But I think that's all I got for today, guys. God bless each and every single one of you. I hope you're having an amazing Sunday. Go outside, touch grass, spend time with your family. Remember, if you take anything away, today is the present. And just like the present, there's a reason it's called the present, because it's a gift, guys. It's a freaking gift. So subscribe, like, do whatever you gotta do. Much love and peace.